Okay, we're live. So hello everybody. Today with me is Emilius from Reactive Network, and today we're gonna talk about the hackathon organized by Reactive Network, and this is my special guest, and Emilius will explain that what's going on. So how are you, Emilius?
Hey, Kuba, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here on your show.
Yeah, that's also a pleasure to me for having you. And yeah, can you say a little bit about Reactive Network? What you do?
hmm Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there are many ways to describe it, but I can start off with the typical sort of an elevator pitch, and then we can find some real-world analogies. So,
Sure.
typically, reactive network is this executional layer that allows developers, for now, Solidity developers, to deploy reactive smart contracts. So reactive smart contracts are your typical Solidity contracts with just one key difference is that they can subscribe to other events emitted by external contracts, and they can be on different chains as well. And once those external contracts emit some event because of a function call or whatever any other reason, that event emitted will then activate the reactive contract to execute the intended logic. And then those reactive contracts can do whatever actually that is needed. They can just accumulate state and wait for some threshold to be met, or they can actually call other contracts and initiate further computation. So in simple words, that would be on-chain events driven if this and that execution layer. Technically, it is a blockchain. We don't like to mention that because people already immediately get the wrong idea that you're just a new layer one, layer two. Not truly. Reactive network is a decentralized execution layer, mainly to allow for on-chain, pure on-chain automation on a smart contract events-driven level. So we can talk about cars in this example. If you talk about cars and contracts, there's a sort of an analogy there. A smart contract, like the typical contract, is just like a car. If it has no driver, it just sits there, does nothing, right? But once the driver is there, on blockchain terms, once you have a transaction and the user actually trying to sign it, then it gets operated. So that's a problem with it. They just sit idle unless activated. And the Reactive Network tries to fix that. Essentially the core purpose of Reactive Network is to make applications more autonomous, self-sufficient, and not as dependent on the end user. So if the typical, the typical contract that we know today is, I don't know, what's the most popular car that was made in the early 2000s? I don't know, maybe a Toyota Corolla or I don't know which car that may be. You can think about reactive contract as this brand new Tesla, right? Because it has cameras and sensors that can adjust the external conditions, right? So in the same sense, reactive network and reactive contract can adjust to whatever is happening on the blockchain in real time and basically react by initiating some logic. So that's a high-level overview. I hope paints a good picture on the whole thing.
That's the key, I think, acting in real time, because that's the miss. Reactive networks feels that missing, that the gap, that feature which is missing on any EVM blockchain, which is being reactive. So you always need a trigger. So and what protocols does usually is they build some Web2 infrastructure, some regular backend, and try to watch on actions on the blockchain, and then just push a trigger, and another action is executed. But that's still Web2 approach, the standard backend approach. But what you do, what is the difference? You do that on chain. So you keep your reactive smart contracts. That's the term from what you use, and that reactive smart contract is watching on whatever blockchain we set up in the configuration, and it can trigger another action on even another blockchain, EVM
Yes,
blockchain.
exactly. Actually, Kuba, you did a really good job explaining this. So, reactive is this intermediate layer between the source chain or source contract and the destination chain or contract. And those contracts can be even on different chains. So let's say there's an event on Polygon, contract A, Reactive Network catches that, executes logic, and calls back another contract sitting on AVAX C chain. So, because when you think about it, like DeFi, let's say, obviously most of DeFi is running on top of smart contracts. Every application, it's a standalone application, right? It's not very connected to outside world unless it is intended and hard coded in the very early contracts of that application. So if you want to connect two different applications that were not meant to be connected in the first place, you either have to redeploy contracts, or if they're mutable, you can need to change them. But Reactive Network allows this new option of stitching up two or more completely before unrelated contracts and make them talk to each other and cooperate. So obviously that goes to say that in DeFi there are many things where this can be used to sort of solve many issues in the space right now. Fragmented liquidity, UX, and many more.
That's what I experience on my daily basis. That sometimes we need some part to be reactive. Okay, we have open a page reactive.network / hackathon, and that's the right place where you can register, right?
Yeah, so this web page is mostly for information, but if you click register now, it will lead you to Doro Hacks because for those of you who have been following Reactive, 2 days ago we announced a big hackathon with a prize pool of $50,000, $50,000 for participants. It has different tracks, so there's something for everybody of all levels. Obviously, it's a bit technical, so for the most part, developers need to have the basic understanding of Solidity, but actually the barrier to entry is extremely low. Like my own background, I have never written any code apart from some very basic HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript on Udemy. But actually, even myself, I was able to deploy some reactive contracts that monitor some events and call back different contracts just by following the guidelines on our own GitHub. Because honestly, the marketing team and DevRel team, they have been really hard at work creating material that's easily digestible. So there's no need to be scared of anything. The barrier to entry is super low. And we even have some tracks for not experienced developers because we also want to reward some great ideas.
Cool. All the links are available under this video in the description, so you can look up at that and the other things we will show here. So I see the price pool is huge for me. It's $50,000. And also I see on the first side there is a 54 days left for the submission. So that's the deadline, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So we started the whole thing, like I mentioned, 2 days ago, and runs basically for 2 months. So plenty of time. We will be, warming developers up with everything, getting people up to speed with different workshops. You can see the schedule on this page that you're showing right now. So it's going to be pretty easy to get up to speed with everything. But yeah, the submission deadline is in 54 days to submit your project that you're building, mainly using GitHub.
Okay. For those who are curious what the technology are behind this, it's still Solidity. It's some kind of EVM. It's reactive EVM. That's called the reactive network. It's acting on the protocol communication level. And what about the tracks and price distribution we see there? Can you explain that or talk a little bit about the prices and what's the tracks? You did it already, but I'm just looking on this page and I see the distribution.
Of course. So, the tracks can be seen here, but basically to just give a quick rundown, the open track is the main track where we, give full freedom of imagination to developers. They can build whatever they feel could be, I don't know, improved by reactive and reactive contracts. So it's very unlimited in terms of requirements. It's just we're incentivizing ideas and want to see what people come up with, because honestly the use cases are vast, and even ourselves internally on the team, we keep learning new things and exploring them. So this goes just to act as this source of ideas and inspiration. You can take a look at the specific requirements below, but for now, that's just like a general overview. The second track is Pangolin track. So we are, lucky enough to partner up with Pangolin, one of the OG decentralized exchanges on well, mainly they're on Avalanche. They obviously support more chains, but their home is Avalanche. And we expect developers to come up with different ideas on how decentralized exchanges in particular can benefit from reactive smart contracts. There are many different ways of doing that, but this track mostly, well, totally focuses on Pangolin because we want to produce proof of concept code they could use right off the bat to improve their experience, both for developers and users using Pangolin. And this will just be a real life example on the practical applications of Reactive Network in the world of decentralized exchanges. And also just a shout out to the Pangolin team. They are really nice to work with. We met them in one of the live events quite recently. And yeah, just the base team, always pleasure to be in touch with teams like that. Then we also have a template deployer track. So, if we think about new technology, what makes it as easy to adopt as possible? And one of the things is just having good, efficient templates so that new people, new developers wanting to get started with something like Reactive can go ahead and reuse some of the pre-existing templates, so they don't have to write a lot of code unnecessarily. And this track is tailored at developers who want to build some templates for us to down the line make the life of their colleagues, of other developers, easier for any, I would say, common use cases that could be reused often. So it's up to the developers to decide what sort of use cases they think could be reused very often in space. But the goal of this is to produce as many templates as possible to make the onboarding process as easy. For no-code track, like I mentioned, we not only want to reward developers, but also people with great ideas, because honestly, you don't have to be a solid developer to have very good examples on where Reactive can be used in real life. So this is where we want to reward those people who have great ideas, but they don't necessarily want or they don't necessarily know how to write Reactive contracts. So obviously, as this is a no-code track, you don't have to develop anything, but we expect you to be pretty specific, sort of technical, not in code level, but in terms of explanation of the idea. To explain what can be built using Reactive Network, and then we can use that to either build it ourselves or find people who want to build that according to the idea that was the original idea actually. And we also have bi-weekly challenges. So on the 2nd, I think 4th and 6th week of the hackathon, we will present those challenges, and if you successfully complete those, you will get rewarded as well. So keep your eyes open and just follow the socials for those challenges. They're not going to be as complicated. It's just a good chance to get some hands-on practice with the Reactive Network and earn some prizes. So those are the tracks, and we feel like they cover pretty broad spectrum of areas.
Yeah, sure. What I like on in hackathons that you don't need to be developer to take part of the hackathon, because I think when when I joined my first hackathon, I didn't expect that anybody can join. I expected only developers there. But if you have any skills like no code skills, or you're not so much into DeFi, you can also join. You can find always something for you. Okay. So what's the once again, what's the right way to apply to your hackathon?
Yeah, so if you scroll up the page, there are a few buttons there. Submit Biddle one and register as hacker. So the submit Biddle one is once you actually create a project on GitHub, you know, kind of tailored to one of those tracks. And if you want just to register, there's a button on the right side. You just go ahead, click that, and follow the instructions, and you'll be good to go. So that's pretty simple and straightforward.
Okay. So I also explored your GitHub and I see there is a repository called Hackathon,
Yeah.
and that's the right way to start for
Yeah.
developers, right?
That's a boilerplate. Yeah, boilerplate repo for everybody who wants to get familiar with Reactive. Initiate a working environment initially for whatever they'll be building next.
Okay, cool. So I don't see any questions. Um,
And for all of you guys who want to take a deeper look into this, we have socials, developer focused Telegram and Discord. So feel free to bump into them and ask questions. Our DevRel team will be happy to assist and will guide you, as much as needed to get started, really.
cool. So I think that's it. So thank you, Emilius, for that conversation, for explaining to me and to everybody who is watching this video what your hackathon is, how to join, and what's the prizes. Uh, do you like to add something for last call?
No, not really. Actually, just thank you once again, Kuba, for this idea. Happy to be here with you. And yeah, for all of you watching this, all I can say is just do not hesitate if you want to get involved. Even if it's not about hacking, just share some ideas, ask some questions. We'll welcome all the feedback because
Yes.
for new technology, there's always something to be learned. So thanks again, Kuba, and yeah, hopefully see you on our socials. And if not, all the best.
Yeah, we're in touch. I think we cover a lot on this call. So thank you.
Thank you, Kuba. Have a good day, everybody.
Have a good one.